She walked out on her husband and 5 kids without a word. 10 years later, she returned, expecting ruins. But what she found left her speechless. She left on a Tuesday morning. No note. No goodbye. Just the faint smell of her perfume lingering in the hallway, and 5 little faces waiting at the breakfast table for a mother who would never walk back through that door. Daniel stood frozen for a long moment, watching the eggs burn in the pan. The twins had already started crying. Mia, the oldest at just 10, tried to hush them, but her own lips trembled. He wanted to scream, to chase after her, to beg, but what do you say to someone who walks away from 5 children without a second glance? The first year nearly broke him. Diapers and dentist appointments, cold dinners and colder nights, the crushing silence of a house once filled with laughter. He lost his job in the 3rd month. The boss called it downsizing. Daniel called it karma because nothing felt right anymore. He was a single father of 5, with no help, no direction, and no one to call. But there was one thing he couldn't let go of: them. Those 5 little humans with his eyes and her stubborn streak. So he built from the ashes. He taught himself how to cook beyond box meals. He learned how to braid Mia's hair, even though his fingers trembled every time. He found night jobs, cleaned schools, fixed broken sinks, delivered food in the snow, whatever it took. Sleep became a luxury, but he smiled more. By the 2nd year, he was running his own cleaning business. Nothing fancy, just a van with his name on it and a promise of spotless results. The kids pitched in. Mia managed the schedule on weekends. The twins learned how to fold towels military style. They weren't rich, but they were something far more precious, together. When the 5th year came, he bought their first home. A fixer-upper with creaky floors and peeling paint, but it was theirs. They painted the walls together. Each room told a story. The living room wall still had the faint handprint of little Noah, who had dipped his fingers in blue paint and declared it his masterpiece. And then came year 10. She returned on a rainy afternoon, in a car that looked too expensive for the street it was parked on. Her heels clicked against the driveway as she stepped out, umbrella in one hand, hesitation in the other. The front yard was filled with color, flowers Mia had planted, a handmade swing Daniel built last summer. She knocked. He opened. And for a long second, neither said a word. She looked older, tired, beautiful, still, in that way that made time irrelevant. But there was something else: confusion. As she stepped inside, her eyes swept over the photos on the wall. Birthdays, school plays, first driving lesson. All of it without her. Daniel didn't say much. He didn't have to. The house spoke louder than words ever could. The laughter from the kitchen. The twins chasing the dog down the hallway. Mia walking in with groceries, pausing when she saw her mother, then continuing as if she were nothing more than a memory dressed in heels. And she stood there, drenched in regret. Not from the rain, but from everything she missed. Daniel finally broke the silence. They asked about you. Every year. Until they stopped. She blinked fast. I didn't know how to come back. He nodded. We didn't know how to wait. And then he turned, walked back toward the kitchen, leaving her standing in the doorway of a life that had grown without her. She stood there for a few seconds longer, the sound of distant laughter echoing from the backyard. Through the window, she caught a glimpse of 2 of the boys chasing each other with water balloons, soaking wet and beaming with joy. It was a picture of happiness, raw, unfiltered, and painful for her to witness. Her heels tapped softly on the wooden floor as she stepped further into the house. Every corner whispered of her absence. The furniture had changed, but the feeling hadn't. It was warm, lived in, loved. She tried to smile at a framed drawing on the wall, a child's sketch of Dad, the strongest man in the world, but it felt like a knife to the chest. Daniel stood at the stove again, flipping pancakes for dinner, a tradition he'd started years ago when money was tight and time was tighter. He didn't ask her to sit, didn't offer her tea. He was polite but distant, like a man who had finally learned how to live without depending on anyone but himself. I missed a lot, she said quietly.
He didn't respond.
I thought you'd fall apart, she continued, as if admitting something shameful. I thought you wouldn't survive it. He glanced at her over his shoulder, his face unreadable. I didn't. That silenced her. And then he added, softer, but they saved me. Every single day. She lowered her eyes, unable to meet his gaze. I was lost, Daniel. I was young and scared, and we were all scared, he said, placing the pancakes on a plate. You just got to run. I had to stay. She opened her mouth to respond, but Mia entered the room again. Her long hair was tucked behind her ears, her arms full of grocery bags. She dropped them on the counter and looked at her mother, not with hate, not even with anger, but with a kind of mature detachment no teenager should have. Do you want something to eat? Mia asked flatly, directing the question at her dad. He shook his head. I'm good, thanks. The woman's eyes welled up. Mia, I know I hurt you. I know sorry doesn't fix things, but... You don't know me anymore, Mia interrupted. And I don't know you. So maybe it's best we don't pretend. There was no malice in her voice. Just a quiet, heavy truth. The twins peeked into the room now, curious and cautious. One of them whispered, Is that really Mom? And Daniel simply nodded. No drama. No scenes. Just reality. The kind that children somehow navigate with far more grace than adults. She stood in the kitchen for a few more minutes, the walls closing in with everything she didn't say, didn't do, didn't become. Can I come by again? She asked hesitantly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He set a plate in front of Mia, poured her some juice, and then finally turned to the woman who had once shared his dreams. That's not up to me anymore, he said. It's up to them. And with that, he walked out to the backyard where the kids were waiting, water balloons in hand, shouting for him to join the battle. He laughed, deep, full, real, and ran into the chaos. She stood in the doorway, the rain having stopped outside, but the storm inside her just beginning. She didn't visit again for 2 months. It wasn't out of pride. It was fear. The kind that builds when you realize the life you abandoned not only survived without you, it flourished. The children she once called her own had grown up without her, shaped by a father who had to become everything, mother, teacher, friend, protector, and hero. But the ache stayed with her. Every morning, she stared at the same spot on her bedroom wall, wondering what they were doing, if they still thought about her, if she even had the right to ask. And every night, she walked past the old photo album she kept hidden in a drawer, too afraid to open it. Then one day, an envelope arrived. No return address. Just her name, written in a child's careful scrawl. Inside was a single photo. It was of all 5 children and Daniel standing in front of their house, arms wrapped around each other, faces lit with joy. On the back, in that same handwriting, were 4 words. We're doing okay now. She cried for hours. That night, she drove past their house, parking across the street like a stranger spying on a dream. The porch lights were on. She could see shadows moving behind the curtains, someone setting the table, another person dancing around with a dog. It looked like a movie, one she no longer had a role in. She didn't knock. But the next week, she returned during the day. Not to speak. Just to sit on the bench near the park across the street, watching from afar. She came again the week after that. And the week after. Always silent. Always still. As if waiting for permission from the universe to be part of a story she had once written herself out of. It was Mia who finally crossed the street. She was older now. 17. Confident. Composed. You've been coming here for weeks, she said, standing in front of the bench with her arms folded. The woman looked up. I'm sorry. I didn't want to bother anyone. You didn't, Mia said, her voice unreadable. But if you think sitting here is enough, it's not. Her heart sank. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not offering it, Mia replied. But I'm not shutting the door either. She blinked, confused. Mia sighed. Look, you left. That hurt more than anything. But people change. And maybe you're not the same person who walked away. So maybe we can start small. The woman nodded slowly, the weight in her chest shifting slightly. There's a fundraiser at my school next week, Mia added. We're baking cookies. You used to be good at that, right? A flicker of a smile touched her lips. I remember your favorite. Chocolate chip with a little sea salt on top. Mia shrugged. Bring a batch. If they're good, maybe we'll let you stay for the event. And just like that, the first crack opened in the wall. She showed up with cookies. And they were good. So good, in fact, that the other students asked for the recipe. Daniel came too, watching from a distance as his kids laughed and passed out desserts. He saw her behind the table, sleeves rolled up, laughing with strangers. He didn't approach. He didn't need to. That was the deal now. Let the kids lead. Over the next year, she came to more events. Soccer games. Science fairs. A quiet coffee with Daniel outside the school once, just to talk, not about the past, but about calendars and homework and how fast Noah was growing. Rebuilding trust wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy. Slow. Real. Sometimes the twins ignored her. Sometimes Mia left the room when she spoke. But there were moments too, tiny cracks in the ice. A shared joke. A forgotten nickname. A photograph taken with her just barely in the frame. Daniel never tried to rekindle what was broken. His love had changed. Matured. It was no longer hers to claim. But he respected her efforts. Quietly. Firmly. He let the children decide who she would be to them now. And they did. By the second year, she was invited to birthdays. Then Christmas. By the third, she was there on moving day when Mia went off to college, holding back tears as she waved from the driveway. The same driveway she had once walked away from, thinking she'd never belong again. Now she stood there beside Daniel, the two of them silent in the morning sun. She's strong, the woman whispered. She had to be, Daniel replied. She's your daughter too. The silence between them wasn't bitter anymore. Just tired. Soft around the edges. The kind that comes when all the storms have passed. She looked at him. Do you ever regret it? He turned to her, his face calm. Regret what? Raising them alone. Giving them everything. Never hating me. Daniel took a deep breath. There's no room for hate when you're trying to heal. She nodded, eyes glistening. Thank you for not shutting me out. You earned your way back, he said gently. Piece by piece. And then he walked inside, leaving her on the porch, not outside looking in anymore, but home again, even if just in fragments. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary stories aren't about perfect endings. They're about broken ones learning how to begin again. Let me know if you'd like a continuation or a version in another language.